Transformations. Again, this is Algebra 2, so Algebra 1 kids, you haven't seen this yet. In geometry, if you are just in geometry now, you haven't seen this yet. But a family of functions is a group of functions that have the same basic characteristics, and we call the simplest version of the family the parent function. And it's going to be important that you're able to identify parent functions just based on their shape. So looking here, the first, we have a linear function. This, if you are in Algebra 1, you have seen this. It is just a line. Quadratic functions have a shape called a parabola that looks like a U. Cubic functions give us one little turn. And exponential functions are a U that will sharply increase up. Absolute value functions are going to look like a V. Square root functions, you got a little half curve guy. Cube root functions, you get like a sideways cubic function. And then a logarithmic function look like a flipped exponential function. But again, just look at this picture. PowerPoint's posted. Look at the shapes and get used to them because they're going to help you figure out what equation is made from which function. A transformation occurs when we make changes to the function's equation or graph. So normally we start with a parent function, and our transformation rules tell us how that graph is going to change and shift. So with all of these different equations, when we add something inside the parentheses or subtract something inside the parentheses, it's going to move left or right. And it's going to be the opposite of what it looks like. So we're used to positive things going towards the right and negative things going towards the left. But for our transformations, if it's in the parentheses, if it's adding, then it's moving to the left. And if it's subtracting, then it's moving to the right. On the outside, if it's outside the parentheses, then we're talking about moving up or down. And this is what you're used to seeing. So adding is going to move it up, and subtracting it's going to move it down. If you have a negative inside the parentheses, it is reflecting over the y-axis. Outside the parentheses, it's reflecting over the x-axis. And then A just tells you if it's going to be stretched or dilated. This is a very watered down version. We spend literal weeks of Algebra 2 in this. So hopefully it's review for some of you. And if it's not review, just know there will be a portion of your math life where you will spend weeks memorizing and going over these things. But just some quick tips and tricks. So inside the parentheses is always going to be a horizontal change. Outside of the parentheses is always going to be a vertical change. With our horizontal changes inside the parentheses, it's going to look the opposite of what you think it's going to do. And if you forget the rules, just plug some values into the equation and then plot on the graph and see what happens. You can always plug it in. You can always put it in your calculator. See what happens to those graphs.